Hello everyone. We welcome everyone to Word Out channel. Today we have our guests who are going to share very important information about immigration, administration, and policies. I will let our guests to introduce themselves. It is happy to have the immigration lawyer on this platform to help us understand more about immigration policies and the changes which are happening. I welcome you, Robert, immigration lawyer on this platform. It's happy to have you today. And can you introduce ourselves to our audience to know more about you? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Emma. And I just want to express what a great privilege it is to be speaking to your audience. My name is Robert Aronson. I am actually a native of Chicago. I grew up in the Chicago area, but I'm speaking to you today from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where it is quite cold and quite snowy. So it's all the better to be inside and speaking with everyone. By my profession, I'm an immigration attorney. I've been practicing immigration law for about 35 years. So in my day job, I work primarily on getting visas for individuals working in universities and scientists and doctors and IT professionals. I do some deportation work, some refugee work. But in addition to my professional work, I have been a member of the board of directors of HIAS, which many of you may know. It's one of the world's great resettlement agencies and global agencies dedicated to the protection of refugees. And for the past year and a half, I've been the chair of the HIAS board, which is the position really kind of overseeing the global operations of HIAS, because HIAS now functions in 16 countries, providing refugees with protection, dignity, safety, and life-altering services. So it's a great pleasure to be here, and I hope to be able to explain some of the nuances of U.S. immigration law and how it will affect people on this call.
Thank you very much, Robert. It is wonderful to have you on this platform. We have another guest who will introduce herself to us. You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Alison Stein. I'm an attorney, but not an immigration attorney. And I do a lot of volunteer work with refugees in the Chicago area. And it was my privilege to connect Robert and Emma.
Thank you very much. The host, I'm Emma Yaka. I do a lot of advocacy in the community level, and my work is to make connections and networking within the community to see that we provide resources and information towards refugees and immigrants to understand and make use of them. Thank you very much. I will pose my question. These questions are not mine as an individual. It is for entire community and those people who are willing to get this information. So we have gathered questions to bring on this platform and get information out of it. The community is wondering, they want to know who is the refugee and who's a refugee, who is asylee, asylum application, unauthorized foreign nationals. These are different categories, but we always generalize them as one thing. We need to find the definition and the difference of the four kinds of refugee status. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a great way to start the whole program. And Emma, I'm wondering if I can just back up even one step before that. My assumption is that individuals who are watching this program, their ultimate goal is to stay in the United States. So let's just talk. I just want to talk very briefly to kind of set the stage. There are only 4 ways to get a green card or to stay permanently in the United States. Only 4 ways. First way is through a family relationship, normally with the U.S. citizen, but it could be with a permanent resident. Second way is based on employment. That is, there's a subset of immigration law that allows individuals to get green cards based on their jobs, based on their skill sets. The third way to get permanent residence is certain special programs. Probably the most prevalent being something called a diversity lottery program, which is 65,000 green cards are entered into a pool. But it could also be if the Congress ever passes the Dreamers Act. That would be kind of a miscellaneous way. The fourth way, which is what we're going to be talking about, is immigration based on a fear of persecution. That is, the United States has certain provisions, kind of humanitarian-based provisions that let someone come into the United States and request the protection of the United States to escape from persecution. So that gets us into a definition of the terms you were talking about.
Right.
One type of individual who the United States offers protection is called a refugee. So a refugee is someone who is outside the United States, but for a variety of reasons, the United States is opening its borders to allow that person, to give that person protection. In most instances, not all, but most instances, refugees are first certified by the United Nations, the UN High Commissioner of Refugees, or UNHCR, as having a legitimate claim to persecution and a need for protection. And then there are 9 refugee resettlement agencies that will work with local communities to transport individuals, refugees, to the United States and put them into positions where they can succeed in their resettlement. So that is one way in which individuals can come into the United States, through the refugee program. And each year, the president goes before the Congress and sets a limit of the number of refugees the United States will allow. So 4 years ago, it topped out at 110,000. This current year, the presidential determination under President Trump is set at 15,000. President-elect Biden says he wants to increase the quota for refugees to 125,000. Okay, that's one way. And we'll get back to the mechanics of the refugee program. A second way, or second classification of individuals seeking to escape persecution and find safety in the United States, is through asylum. Asylum, the only difference in asylum conceptually is that for asylum, you have to be on the territory of the United States. So whereas a refugee is applying from abroad, an asylee, that is someone who's seeking asylum, has to be physically on the territory of the United States. And here we're finding incredible divergences of opinion and contentiousness as to who can be allowed into the United States. That's the whole issue at the US-Mexican border. Who can be allowed into the United States to present their claim for asylum? Whereas the refugee program, when you think about it, is more structured. The United States identifies who they want, creates the resources and the community resources to engage in a structured resettlement program, the asylum program, which does not have a quota, lacks that type of rigor, of discipline. People literally come, they try to convince the US government they have what's known as a well-founded fear of persecution, and based on that, they're seeking safety. Again, we'll get back to some of the instabilities in the asylum program. The third kind of subcategory you identified is an asylum applicant. So it takes years, it can take years for between the time that someone initially tries to get asylum and the time that their case is adjudicated. And so the question becomes, during that period of time, when someone's application is pending, before they've been allowed safety, while their case is being reviewed, what are their rights? What are their rights? What are their responsibilities? What are they allowed to do? What are they not allowed to do? When can they work? When can they not work? What types of healthcare coverage can they get? Again, this is something that we've seen tremendous changes over the past 4 years under the Trump administration. And just as an aside, my hope, my profound hope, is that we're going to have to redo this program in a year after the Biden administration addresses some of the distortions that have taken place over the past 4 years. But we'll be talking about what is an asylum applicant allowed to do. And then the fourth kind of subcategory is someone who has not filed for asylum and is simply living illegally in the United States. They're here without authorization. They may have a potentially good asylum case, maybe they don't. But the issue becomes, if someone is unauthorized, what types of not only benefits can that person access, but what types of exposure? What should be the concerns of someone who is here without authorization? But I think that you need to kind of subdivide this whole category of who is seeking protection into 4 subcategories: refugee, Asylee, or someone going for asylum, someone who has a pending asylum application, which again can stretch on for years, and someone who is simply here illegally.